Testing. Okay, so it's Mark, and so we're gonna work on our eyeballs today. And so in the past, I guess, let's see. Well, here's our character again, so you guys can see what he looks like. And so I guess in our first or second video, I can't remember now, we made this mold. And let's see if I can. Should probably adjust everything because it's gonna be kind of hard to do this with my camera. But you can see here we made this mold. And let me focus. Okay. And so when we made this, what we did is we made like a box out of some poster board. And from there, what we did is we poured in some silicone. We had a small round eyeball that we created really simply, and it sat inside the mold like this. And we have two little posts. We have a main post, and we also had our vent, which was just a piece of 1mm wire. And so you can see it created this little whatever you want to call it, little stem. And so I poured a mold here with some resin, and I used some plastic resin, and I used 0.01 ounces of part A and part B of the resin. What was it called? I can't remember now. But inside here, we'll open it up, and you can see how that works, hopefully. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. You have to forgive me because I only had about 3 hours of sleep last night, so my brain's not really working. But here you can see on the inside what it looks like. And so we had our main pour hole and our vent. And I did pour one, and I accidentally poured resin into the this small hole here, the vent. And just one drop of resin there didn't allow air to escape when I was pouring the resin in here. And I only got about half of an eyeball out of it. So I actually lost it. I dropped it on the floor, so I can't show you guys. But these vent holes really make a big difference in how your casting comes out. Now the castings worked pretty well. I have 3 eyeballs for our character. As you can see here, so we have 3 eyeballs. And so today we're going to modify these, and we're going to paint them up as well. So these pore holes that we have resin in that attach to our eyes, we have to cut these off. And we have also some different paints here. We have some Testors enamel paints. And before the show, I stirred these up to make sure that they were still good because they're kind of old. And in the process, when I did so, I lost the little seals on the inside. So these will probably dry out in a couple of months after I use these. I'll have to buy more. That's the bad part about these jars, is that the paint tends to dry out pretty quick if you don't have a seal. We also have some paint thinner to clean our brush. And I didn't have gloss enamel black paint. So for the black center part of the eye, I'm going to use some acrylic paints. And since this acrylic won't be shiny, I have some gloss coat lacquer, which I'll put in the center of the eye. We also have to drill holes in these eyes. We have to drill, let me see here. So in our design, what we did is to attach our eye to our puppet, we're going to have a hole underneath the eye, and there's going to be wire that goes through our puppet and into the eyeball and holds it in place. And you can kind of see here where we have wires that branched off inside the armature, and these wires will go up into the eye. So we'll have to do that somewhere in the center of the eye in this direction, and also we'll have to have a hole in this direction so that we can insert a tool to rotate the eyeball if we want to. I also need to clean these eyes up a little bit because the original eyeball that I made had a really I used really soft plastic, and in doing so, the center part was a little bit chewed up, and so it's not really a perfect circle in the center. So let's see here. So for that, I have our drill, and I wish this camera had autofocus. That's the only bad part about it. But I'm just going to clean up the center part of these eyes just a tad bit to make them more round, as they're kind of angular right now. So let's clean these up. It doesn't take a lot, just like that. That's good. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to make these deep holes here. I'm just indenting them slightly. It's probably pretty good. So nice and round. That's what we want. Okay. So again, you can see it's going to be the eyes like this. Proper size. Now, let's see, how am I going to do this? I guess I'll drill the holes first. Now, I've got a pin vise. Pin vices are just, basically like a drill, a chuck in the top with the stem, and this part spins, and that part goes in your hand, and then you can twist it like that. So I want to drill out the center of these eyes because we want to stick a tool inside there for animation purposes, right? So just going to put it in there and spin it. And this is really soft, not really a super soft plastic, but it's pretty good in terms of ease of drilling. Some plastic from Smooth On. The name of it is evading me right now, but the center hole here is really important because if you want to animate your eyeballs, there's ways to do it. You could stick a pencil eraser in there and move it around. Some people do that. You can design your eyeballs so that you have like a magnet that you can roll around that's painted black, and you can take some metal filings and put them inside your resin so that it can be magnetic. You can take a little piece of clay and just roll the clay around on the surface if you wanted to. But that's just if your eyeballs have like a black dot on there, like an iris or pupil, I mean. And that's it on a white eyeball. So you can do that in a simple way. But if you want to make more complicated eyeballs like this, you have to really spend some time on it. So here we're just going to drill out these three. Okay. Now, when I cast these eyes, the eyeballs themselves had a seam line around them, believe it or not. I guess the original eyeballs were cast somehow in a mold, and so there's a line there. And so the very middle part of the eye, I want to drill another hole in this direction. And this will be for our 1mm wire, which is coming off the top of our character here. So the eyeballs will actually slide onto the wire. So we need to drill out some holes. Now, in terms of animation, it's going to be a little bit difficult to animate the eyes if we're going to move them around a lot. There's going to be some restrictions and how we can animate them. So our eyes will be on the wire like this. Now if we take another tool and stick it in there and move it around, you can tell it's going to be more, it's going to be easier to move in this direction than up and down. So we'll have to work within the confines of our for our design. And I might actually have the wire extend off the top of the puppet just a little bit, so that wire can bend and we can move the eyes up and down as well. Now in terms of depth, how deep do I want to make this? Maybe halfway through the eyeball would be kind of good. That'll give us the most stability, so a little bit deeper. Alright, that's probably pretty good. Do that for the next two. You can buy pin vices on, there's a website which is Rio Grande Jewelry Supply. I think that's where I buy mine. RIOGRANDE, Rio Grande. Or is it Rio Grande? Not really sure. But we used to use their catalog in our jewelries. At Paul Stewart Jewelers, where I used to work, we had one of their catalogs, and they have all kinds of cool stuff in there, especially if you like to work with wax. You can get wax pens and things to melt wax and inject it in molds. And but it's kind of like, you know, with jewelry, it's similar to stop motion in that they are, get that cleaned up there, going the way of computerized, like, you know, making rings and things in a CAD machine and 3D printing and all kinds of stuff. It's getting, you know, modernized, and so a lot of the old techniques are probably not going to be around for very long. Most jewelry stores don't carve wax by hand anymore. Sad to say. Oh. I hear my son crying. He doesn't want to do his homework before he goes to bed. I don't know what's going on. Such is life. Yeah, wax is pretty cool to work with. If you're good at it, you can do a lot of things. Alright, so we have our holes drilled. Next step is to paint. Alright. Let's first see if this will slide on here or not. Will it work? Need two hands. Yep. Alright. So the wire will slide on there. Obviously we have too much length here, but we're going to trim this later. Okay. So, I need like a little stick or something. What can I use for this? I have something in here. Alright. Alright, got some wire, piece, Drama, drama, drama. Alright, so our enamel paint is actually pretty good. It's not too dry. So as you can see, it'll run a little bit, which is what we want. So I'm going to put some on an old CD that I have. I don't need very much for this. Okay. Also need a paper towel. Hey Jay, do your homework. Quit being a turd. Come on. I think my son's really tired. He doesn't want to do anything. He's being dramatic. Alright. So. I'm sure that's nice listening to him cry. Yeah, let me check on my son really quick. I'm sorry, guys. Right. So I'm back. I apologize. Alright, so now how do we paint these eyes? We've got yellow, we've got red and black, and so what we need to do is we've got this red line, and there's a trick to getting a red line that's really fine like this. And the way to do it is to now remember, now what we did was we had a pair of dividers. Let's see, where did I put those at? And I've got clay on these, but you put them in there inside your eye, and you can scribe your line around, and that's going to be our guide. Now I'm going to use a little paint thinner here to make sure my brush is wet, and then I'm going to put some paint on my brush. And then we're going to paint just around that line right there. Let's see here. Now the only problem is it takes a while for this paint to dry, so I don't know I don't know if I can do this entire eyeball or all three of these eyeballs really quickly. And judging by the sound of my son's crying upstairs, I can still hear him, so this might be one of those nights I can't do a whole hour show. I think he's having a bad day today, actually. He's having a bad day. I think I'll play it by ear. If I hear him crying still in like 20 minutes, then I'll probably stop the show. Alright, so resin printing, yeah, that's pretty awesome. The only bad part about those is there's a lot of, you know, chemicals and cleanup, and I don't know if I really like that too much. I'd rather like pay somebody that has a really good setup to actually print stuff for me. Alright, so there's our, let's see, it's not too bad. I might, So it might take a couple of coats to get this to be really nice. Get my brush a little clean. Of course, paper towels are really helpful if you're messing around with enamel paints. Yeah. Okay. So now we have the red, and then hopefully this will not take too long to dry. Kind of see how well that is. It's not super round. Now there's some other tricks to painting eyes that some people use, and one is that if you have a ball that's or a bead that is the proper size, and the hole goes all the way through, you can actually stick a piece of wire through your eye and put the other side in a drill bit and spin it. And as it spins, then you just take your paint on your brush and you hold it up to the eye, and it'll make a perfect circle. That's one trick. Now we're kind of doing it, you know, really, you know, primitively, I guess you could say. But this technique works pretty good too. So then we have our yellow paint, and another piece of wire. Stir it up a bit. Don't need a real lot for this as well. Scraping off the excess here. Okay. Open this again. Now, paint thinner tends to evaporate pretty quickly, so I'm going to try to keep it covered as much as you can. You don't want to have it all evaporate on you, so keep that in mind. And they've also got like these special seals that go on the top of your paint container to prevent that. But alright, so now that we've got the red on here, hopefully this yellow won't bleed, or the red won't bleed into the yellow, but it's going to be kind of boring if you guys got to watch the paint dry, so let's see what happens. Alright, should work. So now that I've got the red line on there, I'm going to go right up to the edge with the yellow. And that's how you get like a fine line of red. So if you try to put the yellow first and then paint the red, what would happen is it's a lot harder to get that nice little edge there. This is how I pretty much paint all of my eyeballs on all of my characters using this technique. Alright, hopefully you guys can kind of see that. Alright. So something like this. And looking at our design, yeah, I could probably make that slightly finer, so I can tell our paint is getting a little bit sticky and dry, so I'm adding a little bit of thinner here. Thin it out slightly more. And just get a little bit closer to the edge here. Yeah, if the paint starts to get a little bit thick, you'll start to get brush strokes. So you don't want to work too slowly. Alright, so there it is. Not too bad. Do that to the next one. So if you ask, why do you use enamel paints? Why not just acrylics? Keep in mind that enamels are a little bit more able to withstand, your tools and things touching the surface without scraping off your plastic. Yeah, after I paint these eyes, I guess I'll stop my show. My son is still crying. I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know if he's not feeling good or I don't know. It's not like him to just cry for no reason, so. I thought maybe it was because he didn't want to do his homework, but now I'm beginning to wonder if he's sick or something. Poor little guy. Alright. So hopefully you guys can see this. You can see how I'm getting close to the edge. Kind of holding my brush in the center of the eye as I move it. And like I said before, if you try to paint the yellow first, and then you try to paint that edge, it's really hard to get a fine edge that looks nice, because your brush tends to want to splay out, the little bristles, and so you'll find it a lot easier to get a finer edge this way. Something like that. Okay, I'm also going to paint the middle part of the eye as well. And these. I'm going to paint black over it still, but that should work. Okay. So now we have 3 eyeballs. Yeah, I'll paint the black parts of these eyes here in a second, and then so you can see the whole process. It's not too hard to make eyeballs, but some people don't know these little tricks, which, I kind of take for granted that I know a lot of these things, but okay, so I just clean my brush. Like I said before, these your thinner usually has a little cap like this. Never throw these away because, like I say, this stuff evaporates really quick. Make sure it's pressed on good there. Okay. Give this about a minute to dry. If you don't have a hair dryer, blowing or using your hand helps to speed up the drying process. Okay, I'm gonna get a straight pin over here real quick. Oops. Alright, so I got some black in, or what is this? Not now, it's acrylics. Black acrylics. Put a little bit here. Off to the side. Right there. And I'm going to take a straight pin and just put it down inside the hole of our eyeball, or iris, or pupil. Do that to all three real quick. And this will get that black down inside that hole that we drilled, which is important, because if you don't do that, your camera will see, you know, down inside there, and you want to try to hide the illusion of how you made your eyeballs. So a straight pin works like that. And I'll take this part, paint it in. Sort of like that. Okay, not too bad. So the last step is to, when these dry, is to just use our gloss coat lacquer, and we're gonna coat the inside of the eye where we used our flat acrylics, so that it'll be a uniform sheen, you know. We don't want to have a flat iris and then a glossy pupil, or vice versa. Also, the gloss will hopefully seal in this acrylic, make it a little bit more robust. And any little imperfections, I'm not too worried about imperfections on these and differences between them. I think as long as they're pretty close, it's okay, because our character is, you know, a mutant frog, so I don't think we have to worry about things being too perfect or precise. Luckily, acrylics dry really quick, so. What's the matter? Why are you crying, AJ? What happened? Huh? What happened? Okay. Alright. So I'm gonna coat these. Okay, so that concludes our live show for tonight. And So anyway, hopefully you guys learned a little bit about how to make eyeballs. Hopefully that helps. And obviously, my son needs help with something, so I'm gonna take off. But I want to thank you guys for stopping in, and I guess I will see you guys all next week. Next week we're gonna work on making our sculpting our puppet. All right, see you guys all later.